In this lesson, we'll look at viewing the model in 2D. So if you look at the model on my screen right now, there's a 2D representation of a section view, basically a slice through the model at a given point. And at that slice, there's a depth or a clip, so I can only see so far back in depth. There's also a crop around the right and the left, top and the bottom, cutting off those elements so I don't see anything to the right, to the left, to the top, or the bottom. Now this is just one type of 2D view. There's also floor plans, ceiling plans, elevations, and detail views, or drafting views, if you will, of specific details. Now all of these can be seen in the project browser in the lower left. So if we go to that area, you'll have a grouping called Views. If you expand that, you'll see subgroupings depending upon how your views browsers are sorted. So to see that sort order, right-click Views and click Browser Organization. This will show me how those views are sorted and grouped. For this example, we're going to leave it set to Type and Discipline. If it's not set to that, set it to Type and Discipline and click OK. So now I can see I have subtypes of views. For example, floor plans. I can expand floor plans and I see subtypes, electrical and mechanical. And let's say if I expand mechanical, I have all the different types of mechanical views within this project. Now about the crop and the clip, for example, for the section view that I have on my screen. The properties of the view, since nothing is selected, are in the Properties window. If you have something selected, just click Modify. It'll deselect anything, and then it'll go back to the default view for section. Now, scroll your properties down almost toward the bottom until you get to the area called Extents. This is where you have the crop and the clip. So for example, right now, the view is cropped. If I were to uncheck mark that and then click on the screen, you can see the rest of the view to the right appears. If you click on the crop again and click on the screen, it disappears. Now the crop region isn't visible, but I could make that visible if I check mark the crop region visibility box, then you'd see it. Go ahead and uncheck that. Now the clipping, there's a button for far clipping, and if I click on that, I actually see that I'm clipping without a line or with a line or no clip at all. There's also the far clip depth, meaning how far back from that section line or that section cut you see elements. And I can change that numerically. Now we'll cover all this a little more in another lesson covering views. But now to look at some of the other views. For example, if I want to look at a 2D plan view, I can double click Level 1 HVAC plan. That will show me the overall plan view for this entire building for Level 1. If you scroll down, you have other plan views for the second level and also the third level. Also for plumbing, for HVAC, and electrical. There's also plan views for specific areas, such as the toilet room. If I double-click the toilet room, I have a plan view layout for that room. Now, outside of the plan views, in 2D, we also have ceiling plan views. And you have these grouped under coordination for Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3. This gets into where we start work sharing. But just to illustrate the plan, if I double-click Level 1 ceiling plan, this will show me the view of the Level 1 ceiling plan. Now, there are other views too. If I scroll down below 3D, you have your elevations and your sections and drafting view. Section is what we were originally looking at for our section views. So there's all sorts of different types of section views. If you go to drafting and expand drafting and mechanical, you see you have drafting views. These are more of detail views. Now you can either draw these and create these inside of Revit, or you can link them. Now, other 2D elements that you may not think are really 2D since they're not the model are things with text or annotation, such as legends. So if I expand legends and double-click one of the legend views, you actually have the text for that legend. And that information is placed on your drawing sheet. If I scroll down a little more, you have schedules and quantities. Expanding those and double-clicking, in this case, let's say mechanical equipment schedule, shows me the schedule for the mechanical equipment. And then below that, we have more schedules. We also have reports. And then finally, our drawing sheets. And for example, I can double-click the M100 mechanical legend, and it shows me the drawing sheet. So that's kind of looking at both 2D elements when it regards the model, and also 2D elements that aren't really the model, but 2D drawings, if you will. Now, there's a lot of views open, and we'll talk about this a little more in the view section. but you can actually sort and tile and open up different views or cycle through them in a multitude of ways. To close the view you're on, you could simply go to the right and click the X, and that would close the view. Another way would be to go to the View tab, and then on the right side of the View tab, in the Windows area, you have a drop-down called Switch Windows. This would allow you to switch between each one of these view windows that you previously opened. So I could go back to that floor plan toilet room just by selecting it. You also could say Close Hidden, meaning close everything but the current window that's open. And then the remaining buttons to the right of that would let me, for example, cascade the windows. So I could select the Cascade button. That would cascade those. Or depending on the number of windows you had open and the size of your monitor, you could tile the windows. This really isn't a good example because there's so many windows that it's not really efficient in the tiling of this mode. But where it could be efficient is if you're looking at the right, the left, the top, and maybe a plan view. So 4 views. Here, again, you could just simply click the X and that will close your windows. And then I can go back and retile these. Or I can maximize one of the windows and say Close Hidden. And now what it does is close everything but the current window. So in this lesson as a review, we looked at the two-dimensional model, both 2D elements of the model itself and also 2D elements that aren't necessarily the model, but supporting information for that model, such as legends, annotation, and sheets.